Hi everybody, welcome to another Guitar Night Live, and we're getting through to May. The end of May will be the end of us doing it every week, and then in June we're going to go to twice every other week in June.
Very good.
But this night in Guitar Night Live, my guest is a guitar player who been hearing a lot about him actually from people like Jay Curd and Jimmy Smyth. They're mentioning him to me. Been checking out his Instagram videos and Facebook videos. Some really good guitar playing. He's recording with people like Nathan Carter, and he's been playing some pretty big gigs, like to 16,000 people over in England, the Barclaycard Arena, and generally doing really well with his playing. And recently with the RT Orchestra on the gig with the singers doing Leonard Cohen. So, well, so his name is Kevin Rowe. Kevin, welcome to Guitar Night Live.
Hello, it is a distinct privilege to be here.
Great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So, wanted to start by asking you a bit about how you got into playing guitar in the first place. What age were you and how did you start playing?
That is a good question. I started playing tin whistle actually, and like trad music and all that stuff, and then wanted to get into guitar. It's a crap story, but I can't remember what inspired me to pick it up, or I'm sure it was something like my dad playing records or something, and started with classical. I was told to start with classical, so did that for a couple of years, let the trad go, and that was kind of my I don't know, it was my reward for doing a few years of classical was getting an electric, and
Right.
then severely neglecting the classical for a while. Once I got the electric, then went back, finished, did my classical grades, and kind of, thank God. So but that's it really. It's not a particularly interesting or crazy story. I just got the head down and just enjoyed it. Had a great teacher too. I had the same teacher for about 12 years,
Right.
10 years, 12 years, the same guy every Monday evening for 12 years. It was insane.
Amazing.
Mark Collins in Dunleary. Actually, you might know him. He teaches down the road from me. Yeah, amazing teacher.
Oh, that's really interesting. I don't know him, but I'm sure I'll bump into him sometime.
Yeah.
And tell me about the tin whistle. Was there music in your family? Did they play Irish music, or did you?
No, man. Like the only real musical link is I don't know if you know a band called Keela. They're like kind of a progressive trad. They're three guys in that are cousins of my mom. So the trio Snuddies. Yeah. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, had a little bit of exposure to it through them, but
Oh,
no,
that's
other than that, no.
Did you see Keela playing live when you were younger? Or?
I did. I got to see them in Vicar Street when I was about 14 or something maybe. So it wasn't. I started playing trad when I was 5 or 6, just in school. Like the tin whistle. Like we were lucky to have into a tin whistle instead of recorder.
Yeah.
But I got to see Keela when I was about 14, and then actually I got to play with them about 2 years ago.
Did you?
I got a call from a random connection in to do a gig with them, and that was terrifying and enlightening and fun and all the cool stuff.
Wow, that's amazing. Where was that gig?
It was in a big church in Kilkenny. It was like part of some arts festival that was going on up there, and they hired out a church. Yeah, it was cool, very vibey gig. It was nice.
Wow, amazing. How many people were on that gig?
On the gig,
Yeah, like was it a big band or?
yeah, maybe 8. I think maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But cool, great instrumentation, and it's all, you're not sure what's improvised and what's part of the record, so you're learning the stuff and you've no idea if that was just a momentary thing on the record or is it like something you have to learn. So it's all keeping a close eye on people. And
That's brilliant. That's
yeah,
amazing. I saw them playing a few times. Once was in Galway, and oh, such a good gig. Like everybody's dancing completely the whole time.
yeah, serious musicians, man. Like amazing band.
Yeah. So, do you still play tin whistle ever? Do you still remember tunes you learned?
Oh man, I haven't picked one up in a few years, but I'd love to. It's like on the bucket list to pick it back up, and I spend enough time playing it. Hopefully the tunes come back to some degree, but I don't know. Maybe not.
And on guitar, you don't play tunes like trad stuff on guitar.
No, actually, no. I've never experimented with that. Like I've done a bit of bluegrass playing, but more from the American school of things. Like I've never, we'll leave that to Anto Drennan and Jimmy and the guys who do it well,
And so tell me more about when you started playing guitar. What kind of things, what was your musical influences? Like after classical, when you started playing electric, what kind of
Sure.
bands did you like then?
Sure. I was a big Rory Gallagher fan because my dad's a big fan of his, and we had a bunch of like a really cool bunch of records around the house, like Live Over Europe and that, and then we had a couple of great Dire Straits records. So I was a big fan of Martin Knopfler's, and then a lot of the like stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think is like Guitar Hero type music, like loads of Fleetwood Mac stuff. Now I know he's amazing, but it's not like the Mark Knopfler school of here's a guitar player, it's very parts oriented playing and cool melodies and stuff. So I love those guys. Loads of Paul Simon as well.
Yeah.
So kind of just, there's like 100 albums to hear before you die. We kind of had them all in the house in one degree or another. So that was great.
Cool. And did you learn to play things like Sultans of Swing, the solo from that, things like that?
No, so would you believe the first time I ever played that whole song start to finish was in France last year. I went over to do some bar gigs with a band and I was like, crap, I've actually never learned this song. This is disgraceful.
And what are the things that you remember learning early? Like what was the first solo you learned?
Oh, the first solo was probably it was probably something a tad embarrassing, like a Green Day thing or something. Well, not embarrassing, you know what I mean? Like it's like not something that hasn't aged particularly well, you know. But I'm trying to think now. My teacher used to teach me some cool like Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff,
Okay.
nice chordal things and a few Jimi Hendrix bits and all. But I didn't really come at the guitar from like the real wanting to shred and do all that stuff. I just came at it from the classical thing. So everything was a breath of fresh air after playing Bach for years. I still love it, but it's hard, man. It's a hard gig playing classical.
Have you gigged, like actually performed classical, like solo guitar gigs?
Yeah, with bits and pieces, like mostly at things like funerals and like if I have to play a classical bit in a pit show or something.
Right.
But I haven't done recitals or anything, Like I was playing at a funeral and they asked, could you play some classical stuff? And I said, yeah, sure, of course, that's no problem. And then they said, oh well, of course, like Cavatina then, which I'd actually never learned, which is again another disgraceful thing, from the Deer Hunter, and the funeral was in 2 days, So I had to disappear into that, and I kind of got back into the swing of things, classical wise, from that point on. I was like, I actually should get better at this again.
That's hard in my experience of like all the different kinds of gigs you can play. Just playing like solo, it's so exposed. You're just like every single note can be heard, and you can't stop for a second. It's really hard.
That's definitely true. Yeah, every little squeak is heard. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Which it's a beautiful aspect of it as well. Like every melody note is clear and everything is, you can create this whole palette of sounds and stuff. But the downside is everyone hears everything, and it's hard in the hands. Big necks on those guitars, big thick, wide necks.
Really hard. Don't envy people doing that all the time. One of my classical guitar teachers, Leslie Cassidy, he used to
Sure.
like the fear of just forgetting what the music would always be like. It could happen anytime. You could have played the piece, and know it inside out, and then still on a gig just blank, and then can't do anything.
It's terrifying. And do you ever find this where if you're playing a piece that you've played it hundreds of times, and like you were saying, it just disappears, and you have to just rely on the muscle memory and just watch your hands doing something that your brain isn't conscious of. It's a bizarre experience, man. Very strange.
Yeah, if you can do that, that means you really ingrained it.
Yeah, it's the test of whether you know it truly or not, I guess. Yeah.
But I suppose that's the difference, and that's why I always thought with jazz, it's sort of different in that, like, you're not really relying on your memory so much. You're more relying on an ability to improvise. So unless you're doing something that's like got a lot of written stuff in it, but most of the time, if you're just playing a standard or whatever, you basically veer far away from the melody. But as long as you're playing something that sounds good,
Yeah,
what matters.
yeah. That's true. You got to know the tunes, though. You have to really ingrain the tunes, I
Yeah,
guess.
you do. You have to know the chords.
Yeah.
I'm really kind of interested in how your approach sounds like from you're doing classical guitar and then you started learning electric with this teacher and you were learning like songs like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Green Day.
Sure.
Did you start getting into improvising later on, like as in playing your own solos and improvising? How did that happen?
Um, the improvising thing, I think, came from just learning solos that I liked on records, like trying even just like little bits and pieces of solos. And I tell you, the best thing for my improvising was when I started playing in like cover bands and stuff when I was a kid. I say a kid, like 16 or something, 15 or 16. And I knew a bunch of songs up to then, but then, when you get a gig and you have to learn 20 songs in a hurry, um, your ear develops well and you start hearing little melodies pop out, and you start, like, if you have to learn a keyboard line, if there's no keyboard player on the gig, all of a sudden you start seeing patterns, and then you learn the pentatonic thing and you see where that pops up all over the place. And um again, yeah, I don't remember it being something that I sat down and worked really hard at. It was just learning other solos and learning vocal melodies and keyboard parts, and then um just thinking if I was playing a part, like a chordal part during a song, being like, oh, this melody would sound nice here, and trying to fit it in. Or, and then obviously later when I started studying, like in BIMM and things like that, or just before, you get into Steve Vai and these guys, and you try and gleam like a tiny bit, and then spend a week on that, and then gleam another tiny bit. And it's a big mishmash of stuff. I think, if that's a really vague answer, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's a good way to do it, actually. It sounds like you're kind of developing your ear the whole time as well. You're
Yeah.
hearing the stuff and learning how to play what you're hearing.
Yeah, that's it. That's a concise way of putting what I was saying. Yeah, and just hearing little melodic ideas and trying to see where I could fit them in. Obviously, not always working, but you experiment with stuff and see what you like. And then I think my real studious kind of improvising thing came after I started college.
Yeah.
Which wasn't terribly long ago, but it was just, I got more into the theoretical side of things and modes, and like I didn't know anything about modes before I started college. Didn't know anything about like intervallic things, playing in thirds and sixths and all. So it was very pentatonic based, and then if I could hear a melody I could play it out, but I didn't know what it was, really. Yeah.
And when you're in BIMM, then did you do a lot of playing? Like, how did they get you to apply these modes and things that you were learning? Were you playing music in ensembles in BIMM where you were like testing this stuff out?
Yeah. I mean, like BIMM was it was very fragmented, which, like, in a great way. So you might spend an hour a week on improv, like formally in a class,
Yeah.
And then you spend other time on business and then all that, and you do some ensemble performance, but a lot of it was say like reinterpreting covers, or they were sort of trying to get you to develop your speed at learning songs and working as an ensemble, rather than like, okay, you're going to go up and improvise over this thing and see how you can play over these changes. It was like, how can you work as a group and how can you get from A to B quickly and efficiently, rather than like go and express yourself. That was more like, there were moments of that, but it was really to make you a working musician, rather than like to give you tools, rather than to, I don't know, spend hours trying to express some creative thing. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
That does sound quite practical and useful.
Mm.
And you were
Yeah.
talking a bit more about that. We'll come back to it, about how kind of Jimmy was part of that guiding you.
Oh yeah, man.
Like,
Jimmy's the guru.
so before that, it's going back to like what your practice routine is like these days.
Yeah.
What are you working on when you're practicing these days?
That's a good question. I was like, when this all started, you're sort of looking down the barrel of this long period of time with no gigs and no whatever, and you're like, well, great, like I'm gonna have a chance to work on a bunch of this stuff and shine a light on all my weak areas. And then I totally got choice paralysis. You're like, well, like my slide playing needs to get better, my chordal playing, my harmony knowledge needs to get better, my acoustic playing, finger picking, and it's like there was too much, you know. So I was like, okay, well, how can I narrow all of that down into like a basic kind of grassroots concept and run with that, you know? So I've just been doing maybe the first like hour or two of practice, just boring stuff, you know, just learning the fretboard better, learning my intervals better, studying theory, going through all my, you know, circle of fifth stuff better, secondary dominance, like just trying to open up the fretboard more, because everything becomes easier after that, you know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a good concept of do the boring or more difficult stuff first, and then you get
Yeah.
out of the way, and then you have fun later on. That's what I always tell the students: like, eat your vegetables. And then...
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And look, it sounds like a totally you know, boring meat and two veg way of looking at it, but I was like, well, how, if I want to get better at scales, that's going to be helped by knowing the fretboard better. If I want to get better at chords, improvisation, anything, like it's all going to be helped by that, you know. And the fact that you're simply playing for 2 hours just mechanically is going to help your hands, going to help your synchronization, your timing, all that stuff, you know.
But when you say getting to know the fretboard better, what would be something you would do to get to know the fretboard better?
Sure. Well, there was I robbed a great Carl Verheyen thing, which I'm not amazing at yet. It's really hard, but his concept is you start, say, in like C major, and you go your C major pentatonic, and play from the lowest note available, so an E, and move up the C major pentatonic in no particular pattern. Like, don't go up shapes, just play the notes in whatever way you feel like, and then move back down in whatever way you feel like, and then go straight to F. So go up the cycle of fourths, then through your flat keys, do that, come back down, and then you'll eventually come back around to your fifths and stuff, your cycle of fifths.
From the lowest note available up to the highest note available, is it?
Yeah, pretty much. So like, if you're now, forgive me if I screw this up, but like, for example, if you're playing like in, say, just a C major scale, you know, so you just start on E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And so I wasn't going up in a box. I wasn't, you know, going. I was trying to just find the nearest available next diatonic note, you know, and then you come back down in whatever way you can figure out. And what happens then is you're not relying on a shape. You're just going, okay, well, if my finger is here on an E, I know where all my available notes are for C major, you know?
Yeah, that's really hard.
Really hard. And then he does the thing where you do like 4 notes in C major, and then 4 notes in F, then 4 notes in B flat, and like he goes up all 12 keys, or all the flat keys, by the time he's here, you know? It's insane, but it's a great way of, like, I'm desperate for my crutches, you know? Like, if I have a shape, or if I have a box or a lick or something, I have to really work to not rely on that the whole time. So it's a great way of breaking out of that and forcing yourself to just know the fretboard inside out, you know.
Really great way. Removing all the limitations of like, oh, I don't know that area, you know, that's a bit kind of cloudy there, so I won't go there. You have to be completely just everything, not thinking at all.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. And like, one big thing, I don't know, if anyone's listening to this, a big valuable thing I've learned is like, be nice to yourself, you know, because I'm a devil for, if I don't understand a concept completely, or I can't nail it within like an hour, I think I'm crap, and I think, you know, maybe I'm not particularly good at this. Maybe this is all a bit of a fluke, maybe, you know, and all this stuff comes in, and just be nice to yourself, you know. Everyone goes at their own pace, and everyone likes different things, and everyone gets, you know, value from different levels of theory and all that stuff. So there's no rules, you know.
Yeah, that's a really good, really important concept, really. It's very so I think common to everybody to have those thoughts at some time. It's like, I'll never do this. I kind of just know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like that exercise that you were just describing, like how long would you do that for, the going up in C and down in F?
Until I want to throw the guitar out the window, basically, like, not even joking, you know. So like, as long as I can stay focused on it, and as long as I can not want to put the guitar down, and you know, you have to push through a little bit of you know, mental fatigue, but you know, you can you know when you're getting a bit better at it, you know. But again, I would encourage anybody to not try and nail something like that in one sitting, because you'll just cry and you won't have fun. unless you're a prodigy or something, but I'm certainly not.
And about focus, like that's a super important thing, to be able to focus on something for, you know, longer than a second.
Yeah.
Our focus seems to me like we're pretty much across the board, we're all struggling more and more with this as we kind of get more distracted with things in the internet, and just everything is like constant distraction. So to
Yeah.
really focus hard on something, that is a really important skill to develop.
Yeah.
And what do you have any kind of thoughts about how to increase your focus, or how to get it stronger?
Sure. Turn your phone off and put it downstairs. That's a big thing for me. I'm awful at, like, if your phone pings beside you and you're in the middle of an exercise, like, you just find your hand wandering towards it almost involuntarily, you know. But yeah, it's a big thing. And then for me personally, I always find that there's like a little jumping off point in my practice. Like, if I'm seriously focusing, the first like 5 or 10 minutes, my mind's wandering, it's crap, I'm making mistakes, and like, you're getting warm and things, but I'm distracted, and you know, everything's pulling my attention away from the guitar. And I tend, if you just push past that little, you know, whatever 10 or 15 minute point, you just calm down, your breathing slows down a little bit, and you it's, I don't know, it's like a Zen thing, you know, like kind of a mindfulness type thing. It feels like that anyway, where you start losing track of time, and that's when you're sort of in that flow state. That's kind of nice, you know. It doesn't happen every time, but I just assume that the first 10 minutes of my practice, I'm gonna hate it, you know.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that concept, but that makes a lot of sense. But
Good.
another thing that I would notice is the regularity would help a lot. Like, for example, you know, if you're practicing every day, then the focus will get better. But when you miss a day or miss two, then it's going to be harder again. So
Yeah.
would you practice, like, you know, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 6 times a week? You have days where you don't practice?
Like, I'll try and pick up the guitar every day. Every now and again, I'll come across a day where I really, really just don't want to touch it, and I won't. Then, you know, because, you know, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but if you're jamming along with a backing track or a loop that you've made or something, and it's just not happening, you know, like, none of your ideas, or you're not enjoying any of it, you're not happy with your tone, you're not happy with anything, and it's like, I've actually found more value from stopping when you're in those really seriously uninspired moments, you know. Like, obviously, if there's a gig coming up or something, you have to keep going, but if you're doing it to progress and to connect with the instrument and stuff, I've had big setbacks from that, you know. And you can hammer away at the same track going like, I'm going to conquer this thing for like an hour or 2 hours. That just doesn't happen sometimes, you know. So there's value in putting it down, or taking it, like, you know, guys like Larry Carlton and stuff take like 3 months sometimes.
Yeah, interesting.
Which, I don't know, there's something inspiring about being away from it sometimes too, you know.
Yeah, I've definitely taken breaks and come back fresher after.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why.
But like, I suppose probably worth pointing out that Larry Carlton and yourself and me as well, when we take those breaks, it is after doing quite a lot of practice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So if for someone who's like, no, I'll practice another time, I'm not feeling like it, you know, you do have to
Yeah.
a point where you really need a break.
Yeah, that's true, man. It is. Yeah, it is true. You have to sort of, like, without sounding like a school teacher, you kind of have to earn your breaks a bit, maybe.
So
It's hard.
what do you do when you've kind of gotten the more like harder work the first couple of hours, put that out of the way, and then what do you do after that for that's more fun?
It just depends on, like, I have a list done up in my room of areas I want to improve on, you know. It's a long list, but a lot of, like, the primary things I'm working on now are like getting my chord vocabulary better, and getting my chord harmony, you know, like interesting inversions of things and stuff, and trying to move away from basic triads and that. So I'm trying to get that better, and then the way I'll do that is just like learn a song or something. And actually, a great way I've been doing it is if I put on a song that I know already, or I think I can play through okay, any song like pop song or anything, and then try and play the chords that are in the song in as many places and inversions as possible. Like some of them might even sound great, but you know, if you have a song that's, you know, just goes like G, C, D, C or whatever, try and play that in as many places as you can, you know, like things like that, you know, and try and play around with all your different versions and voicings and stuff. And it's your ear is happy because you're playing to a song and you're getting to, you know, express yourself a bit, and there's a musical backdrop to it, you know, but then you're also, you know, it's like almost having a musical click track because the track's not going to stop, it's not going to slow down for you, you know, so you can you can't just take it your time out and be like, okay, well, how does this inversion go and how's it whatever, because the track's gone, the chord's gone, you know. So that's like a way I practice a lot. And then as well, like some jam play courses and stuff, I buy a few of those players that I like and that I want to emulate and try and rob stuff from them.
By like, well, how does that work? Like learning their solos?
No, well, it's like they jam plays this company and they employ really like heavy hitter guitar players and like Brent Mason and Andy Wood, and I'm doing the Tim Stewart one, the guy who plays for Lady Gaga, you know, and it's like you buy a big group of lessons and they've got all the different camera angles and the different slower versions of all the things, and they just talk about different concepts. So he's going on about clean R&B playing, so he's going on about all that inversion stuff and about how to like work on your timing and like right hand concepts and how to do little percolator parts and stuff. So it's stuff I really enjoy playing, so that's a big thing at the minute.
That's really interesting.
And they're great.
You were saying a little bit back that like there's all these things, all these areas, so many of them,
Yeah,
you get overwhelmed, and that really happens even early on. I know, like, you know, you're playing and there's so many different things that you want to get better at. It's
yeah.
like you know what to work on. So you can't work on them like all every day. It's impossible.
No.
So how do you have a way to organize yourself through the list that you are covering things, or do you just kind of start practicing and pick one?
It's a little, it varies a little bit. Sometimes I'll kind of flute around with a few different concepts, and if there's one that's really lacking, then I'll focus on that. But other times it'll just be like whatever music I would put on my Spotify playlist on that particular day, you know, because like I do a lot of sessions and stuff, so you have to try and have a bit of vocabulary in different styles. So if I wake up and I'm just not in the mood to listen to country at all, then I'm not gonna practice it because I won't be enjoying it, you know. So a lot of it's just about the kind of music that I would just like to listen to if I was going for a walk or something, and then do that. And then I have some sort of rules where I'm like, don't practice soloing or noodling all the time because it so rarely comes up, you know. Try and practice the working things that, you know.
That's interesting. Yeah, it'd be easy to like just get lost in soloing for ages.
It happens all the time, every day almost.
But it's so fun.
It is fun. That's the problem. That's the problem. Blues licks are like crack for guitar players.
So play us some blues licks there. Now just play something that's fun to play.
Something that's fun to play. Okay.
And also, before you say, I'll pop your paypal.me. Is it paypal.me/Kevin Rowe Guitar?
Oh, it's probably my email. I should have definitely checked this out before this interview started, shouldn't I?
Yeah. No, get the PayPal address.
Oh yeah, okay. It's my email. Hang on. This is going to be so interesting for everybody watching. Kevin's on his phone. Amazing.
I'll pause it. Okay, so we're going to play a piece.
I'm going to try something. Anyway, just see, I was listening to loads of David Grissom right before we started this, so it might sound a bit like him, but that's hopefully not a bad thing.
Great.
Huh?
Move back a little bit so your guitar's in the
Move back. Oh yeah. Hang on. Oh, so Daisy.
Yeah. Perfect.
Tell me if it's too quiet or too loud or whatever.
Got really sick of just me clapping one person. Gotta put the applause in. That's it.
Happy days. Ah, nice one, dude. Cheers. Whatever it was.
That was a recording of the applause from a Toto gig in 2015.
Oh, really? I'm sharing applause with Steve Luca there. I'm honored.
Yeah, well deserved.
Ah,
Now, with the right hand, I really kind of noticed now your strumming is like incredibly tight. And you were showing
nice one.
something
Cheers,
you were doing the other day that was like really, really interesting and amazing when you were talking about the learning the drum fill.
Oh yeah.
Show us through that again.
That was just it was a Metallica thing. I was thinking because I was trying. Someone asked me to show them. It was in a lesson or something. Show them how to work on some right hand exercises. To work on strumming and picking and that. And I love drummers. I love listening to drummers and drum fills, and I love kind of deconstructing how they play over the bar and how they do all that stuff. And even just snare patterns and stuff and rudiments and things like that are great for my right hand, because it's a rhythmical thing, so why not mimic something that's really rhythmical? And the song One from Metallica popped into my head, so I was noodling around with that. And it's like the fast bit, where the snare goes. I can't sing it, but and if you try and mimic that on the right hand, what happens is you notice that it focuses a lot on your downstrokes and on your upstrokes. Like it kind of doesn't leave anything neglected, So if you do it slow, so it's like so you notice the first phrase is on a downstroke, second phrase is on an upstroke, and vice versa. So the tune obviously is like, and what you can do then is incorporate that into, well, it's like it's not the most musical thing in the world, but if you focus on single notes or chords or any of that kind of stuff, that kind of thing. That's kind of a fun exercise. It doesn't neglect your upstroke, which is
That's amazing. Sounds so good. So
nice.
how long did it take? Do you have any idea from when you started learning the drum fill from Metallica? Like,
sure.
How long did it take to get it that fast?
That fast? Well, it wasn't terribly long because my right hand is something that I spend a lot of time on, like timing and funk things and stuff. The upstroke took a little while, like that one. But when it starts on the upstroke, it's tricky, It feels kind of unnatural.
Sure.
But a little while. I don't know, maybe an hour or two. I can't remember really, but
So you'd already been practicing like that for ages.
Oh yeah. Like it wasn't my first right hand workout thing. It was just the first thing that I'd clearly made the connection between a drum, like a snare pattern, and right hand.
I get you.
You do with loads of stuff. Groups of 5, groups of 7, like playing over bars, triplets. Like I was doing some triplets and that thing just there, and
yeah,
it's a great way of developing your sort of inner metronome and that.
Can you play it again slowly and then
Yeah,
gradually speed up until it's at the really fast?
sure, yeah, sure. Um, so if it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of
That's amazing.
tough. Ah, nice indeed. Thanks. It's fun. It's good fun, you know.
Cool. And the groups of fives and sevens, can you show us what you like in a funk rhythm if you're doing groups of five or groups of seven?
Yeah, that's a fun one actually. It's like if you treat it like if you're playing in 4/4, and you play in groups of 5/8 notes or whatever, an accent. You can accent whatever notes you want, but the so I like accenting the 1 and the 3. I was trying to remember what one I was doing there. So if your pattern is like 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 1, you know.
Yeah.
So if you're playing that in 4, I'll play it slow. So it's like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 1. And again, that's a great one because the second phrase is going to be on an upstroke too, you know. And it can sound great in the middle of like a funk groove, you know. And you can do it in 7 as well. So the 1, the 3, and the 5. Like there's loads of ways you can do it, but the 1, the 3, and the 5 is nice. So if you go like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1. So if you're just playing like a funk thing. In the 7, you know. So it doesn't sound too proggy or anything. It doesn't sound too outside. It's just accenting different beats and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Cool. Potentially, like if the whole band was doing it as well, it could be like
Yeah.
more like a snarky puppy thing where you go actually into 7 for a while and come back.
Sure, yeah. A step now, maybe not at a wedding, but in Proud Mary.
Bulgarian wedding,
Yeah,
13 then.
Bulgarian wedding. They'll shout at you if you go out of 7. Yeah.
Very cool. It really sounds amazing.
Nice one. Thanks.
So I've got a couple more questions about kind of the years you were at BIMM and
Yeah.
what that was. But if anybody has a question, you can either put your hand up and I'll unmute you and you can ask Kevin yourself, or you can type it in the chat, or you can type it in the Q&A. There's loads of places you can ask a question. Fire them out.
Be kind. Be kind.
But you were saying that when you were at BIMM, you were telling me the other day that it was like an amazing time to be there with the teachers you had and
Yeah.
years. And well, tell us a bit more about like just the overall experience of what it was like to go to BIMM. Were you different when you came out after 4? Was it 4 years?
4 years, man. Yeah, 4 years. It was great. Like it was really great. Now I think everyone sort of gleaned different things from it. You know, it was they just kind of threw everything at you, and you decided what stuck or not. You know, so like you were studying business and studying teaching and theory and like music analysis, like how to analyze the cultural impact of albums in different periods of time, and loads of techniques, loads of styles, sight reading, all that stuff. You know, so. Like, I don't know, I'll preface it all by saying I'm sure it's still amazing to be there now. I don't know because I'm not there, but there's some great teachers there still, actually, like James Nash and Darren Bell, all those guys are really like kicking ass in there, and Simon. But I had Jimmy. Jimmy was like he was the head of the guitar department pretty much when I was there, and that was insane. Like we had 4 years of access to Jimmy Smyth, which is a total gift, a scary gift sometimes because he doesn't let you get away with anything, but I was just, you're learning from all these working guys and like who are in different fields, so Jimmy obviously kind of does everything. You guys like Carl Breen, who are real like professional in the sense of like they've got all the gear, they know all the sight reading stuff, they know all, like Jimmy and all these guys have all these aspects, but like I found Carl to be the real kind of consummate head down pro musician, you know. And then guys like Simon McBride, who's amazing, like this PRS in Dorsey, like this rock star. He plays with Ian Gillan, like he plays with everybody, and he's just like all these blues rock kind of amazing chops. And like Connor Brady then is like the textural guy who plays on all these amazing records, played on all the Commitment stuff, and has his own studio now. And like Ray Boyle, who did all the classical stuff. Like there's all these great guys, and
So
just yeah.
with Jimmy, like you were saying, did you ever go in and not be prepared, and then what would happen?
Yeah, I think I did that once, not again. No, he was never horrible or mean, but he was just like, he expected a lot of you, which is exactly what we all needed, you know, exactly what we needed. So it was kind of just like, well, why? You know, you're here to learn and progress and do all this stuff. So
Yeah,
get the finger out.
it works because you only did it once.
True. Yeah. He might disagree. He might mention a few more times, but it was good. Like I personally love being held accountable, and I love being roasted, you know, in that sense.
Yes, same.
Because I'm kind of lazy sometimes, you know. So if I have a real kick up the ass, it's great, you know. I love it.
And did you find, were you able to keep that up? Did you learn how to approach things with the discipline, or did you kind of leave him and then you didn't have the people saying, oh, you've got an assignment, but you had to keep doing it?
Sure. Well, I was lucky in that I kind of like I started working as a musician while I was in BIMM already. So like it's just wedding band things and stuff, which is great. I'm still in that band, but I was held accountable for my playing before I even left BIMM, you know. And I did like a lot of stuff in BIMM, like house band things, which is sort of where they piece together a few musicians in the college and then you work for them developing tunes with songwriters and that. And so if the songwriters have an exam where they have to you know, present their song on charts to a band like you would in a session or whatever, your job is like you have half an hour to talk to the songwriter, interpret what they want, read the chart, get the right sound, and then they film it, you know. So we'd kind of been prepped for all this pressure filled, like no nonsense stuff once we left, you know. So that was a huge help. So the pressure was kind of never taken off once I started BIMM, you know. It was great. Tried to hear my dog growling there. He's gone. I think my folks came home. He's taken off. He wants to get his treats.
Oh, always like to meet a dog.
He's gone now.
With all the pressure being on, like one thing that we mentioned the other day, you were talking about how you would talk about mental health and get you.
Yeah.
And how would he kind of get you to approach that?
The mental health thing, like it came a little bit later. Like it wasn't part of the curriculum in a sense. I'm sure they touched on it a bit, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to Jimmy, just having like a chinwag with him, you know, if you bump into him in town or whatever. And it's always something I've struggled with a bit, you know, like anxiety and things like that, and complexes about your playing and about yourself as a person and things like that. And he was always really cool about, you know, he'd turn you towards books, and like he was mad into like some cool philosophers. Carl Jung, he's a big fan of Carl Jung. I think that's the guy. And he was always very cool about being an ear, like, and you know, he'd like really listen to you. And he's been through all that stuff himself. He'd share all these stories about his performance anxieties when he was younger and stuff. And I don't know, it was very vulnerable in like an inspiring way, you know. That was really good, really inspiring.
Absolutely, sounds really good that was something that came up. And a lot of times if you're in some like high pressure environment, if you're not aware of that, like it's okay to like be anxious or freaked out sometimes, then
yeah, of course, yeah, of course. It's a real big issue that not enough people talk about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, maybe it's because people feel a bit embarrassed or they feel like they're the only one or something, but it's like every musician I know goes through it. Like, you talk to anybody and broach that subject, everyone's got their own complexes about their own stuff, and everyone is comparing themselves to everybody else, which is a bad idea. Don't do that. It's not fun. It leads to bad things.
And how do you not compare yourself? It's very kind of natural thing to do, isn't it? Like, oh, look at how good they are. Look at how good they are, and I'm not
Yeah,
that good.
yeah, it's true.
How do you stop doing that?
Um, I look, I would be lying if I said I'd stopped it completely, you know. Um, but I remember I heard some phrase once where you were saying like if you try and be someone that you're emulating, it's like they're already the best in the world at being them. So you're always going to fall short of this standard you've set for yourself, you know. So if you're trying to be Jimmy Smith, like there already exists a better Jimmy Smith than you'll ever be, you know, because it's him. So
Exactly, exactly. That's like loads of stories if you read like about early Dizzy Gillespie was trying to sound exactly like
mm,
the guy before him, and he failed at doing that and ended up sounding like Dizzy Gillespie. And then the next guy, Miles Davis, was trying to sound like Dizzy, failed completely.
yeah.
Didn't like him, but became Miles Davis. So
It's true. There is a difference though between I think trying to emulate someone because you find their sound or their parts inspiring or their approach to their career or something. That's a great thing. That's really important. But then for me the trouble came when I was like I started knocking myself because I was not meeting certain standards that I'd set for myself based on what they were doing, you know. So if you think, oh, well, I'm playing to X amount of people, this person's playing to X amount of people, or I have this many gigs per year, or I have this many contacts, like downplaying that because of what someone else was doing, that's when it starts getting sticky, you know. That's a
sure,
bad thing.
yeah. Got a question in from Kira.
Sure.
So she says, "What's been the highest moment of your career so far?"
Oh, it's a good question. Um, Highest career moment. I'm very lucky that there's been a few really nice ones, you know. Um, there was I'm still I know everyone gives out to me for harping on about it and stuff, but it was a cool gig. Was the one in Birmingham,
Yeah,
um, for ELO. That was a great one supporting those guys because it was this weird twist of fate. Like because initially it was with a band called the Shoes, and they rang me while I was in Japan. Like I wasn't touring or anything. I was just visiting a pal, and they said, "Oh, we've support for ELO in the Three Arena," and it was in 2 days, and I just landed, you know, so I couldn't do it, and there were tears and stuff, because it's a big thing, you know, and but then they snagged the one in Birmingham as well, so that was fun. That was a lovely gig, and then there's been some nice ones in the country scene. I kind of enjoyed the Irish country scene lately, so we've done some nice gigs up in the Farmers Bash, which are up in the SSE Arena in Belfast. So I got to headline that a couple of times with some like with Derek Ryan and guys like that, you know, and
yeah,
they're nice gigs. And then like small stuff, you know, small stuff getting a nice what would you call it? Like a nice reference or something from someone you really admire. Sometimes that means more, you know. I find those career highlights really important, really meaningful, you know.
mm.
Um there's
When
been lots, thank God. Been lucky.
that's great, brilliant, Steph Love.
Yeah.
But when the gig came up with supporting ELO in 2 days,
Sure.
like when it was that was quite a short time. To like, how come it was just like another band couldn't do it, or
Yeah, it was. I think Jeff got sick, like Jeff Lynne got sick, and postponed his tour by a week or two. So
ah,
the band that was supporting him was lined up for the whole tour, but they had their own tour scheduled for. So
right?
everything got knocked off, and they had to leave. So there was a couple of slots available, you know.
Oh, that's brilliant. Great to hear.
Yeah,
Cool. Uh,
very cool.
cool. So, anybody else? Any questions? Fire them in there. Um, nobody else has a question. We'll get you to play something.
No, nobody cares.
Get in their piece
Another piece.
lined up.
Okay, let's see what we can wrangle here. something. Something.
Was that an improvised piece, or was that something you were working on?
Yeah, that was something. That's not something I'm working on. It was just something that came out. Hopefully, it was okay.
Sinead says, "Oh, good, really enjoyed that."
Oh, nice.
And a couple
Great.
more questions came in there. So, oh, Fran said, tell you that Fran and Paula saw you play with the poor boy in Quinlan's. You were brilliant.
Oh, very good, very good. A great band actually, and a great little venue actually. That's fun.
Is that a
That's
band?
really nice though.
The poor boy is a band.
Yeah, they play like covers and stuff. Like they kind of split out into loads of different factions and stuff. But great, lovely bunch of musicians. I play in a Pearl Jam tribute with a couple of the guys and do a few recording sessions with them and write some stuff. And it's
Yeah.
great musicians actually. Yeah.
And Daniel asked, another Daniel, any warm up exercises that you use? What do you do to warm up?
Yeah, actually, I've been using a lot of the Steve Vai ones lately. Like he did this famous kind of 10-hour workout and then a 30-hour workout, and it's pretty like not in one sitting. Well, the 10-hour one he did encourage for one sitting, which is terrifying, but it's kind of like this chromatic thing, you know, and I'll play it slow if you want. It doesn't sound very nice, but so if you something like that, and you can go backwards then. So it's kind of like a, you know, kind of this cryptic thing where you're skipping strings the whole time. Not skipping strings, but you're not doing any more than one note per string.
Yeah.
And that gets hard after a while.
Does that work like up higher and higher and higher? Or
yeah, there's no open strings or anything in it. Yeah, it's all based on that shape.
right.
You know, but it's great for your right hand. You know, it's great for your right hand, and the there's loads of stuff like that. That Metallica thing is a good one for warming up your right hand. I get stiff. My right wrist gets stiff sometimes. So playing kind of basic funk grooves and stuff along with a metronome and trying to keep your wrist really loose is a good one. And I'd like this endless amount of stuff. I'd turn anyone towards that Steve Vai thing. You can find PDFs and all the 10-hour guitar workout. It's a roast. And the Carl Verheyen thing, that scale thing is great too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
The 10-hour workout, what is that? Is that like something you do something for an hour? There's 10 things you can do them for an hour each or something like that, or?
I can't remember exactly how the 10 hours are broken down, but it's like basically his practice method, and he's like, if you practice all these things, you'll become a better guitar player really fast, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. Now it's like it's hard stuff, and the time he recommends that you put into it is tough, you know.
Right.
And he's like, you have to play it many times flawlessly. Like, and he's like, I mean flawlessly before you move the tempo up. So it's a real meditative kind of thing, you know. Great though.
So Kevin, you're teaching lessons, is that right? You're teaching people, open to give people lessons over Skype or Zoom or
Yeah, I've been doing it a bit now. It's great.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to contact you, you've got the email and phone number there, so you can contact Kevin if you want to lesson with him. And another couple of questions came in there. Jimmy's listening and he said, lovely interview, informed, erudite, fantastic player, but still a punk.
If I'm a punk, it's because he made me a punk. I'm blaming him for that.
Very funny. He had it last week too. So another question in is, what's your favorite song to play at the moment and why? From Amy O'Farrell.
Oh, my cousin. Amy, very good. My favorite song to play at the minute is, do you know, I'm on a real buzz of like 80s rock, like real, like uber cheese, you know. So I'm a huge Def Leppard fan, playing lots of that stuff with chorus on it, you know. And so like Hysteria by Def Leppard is a great tune, or like Alone by Heart. I'm a big fan of that song lately.
One of my students learning the solo from Alone.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's great stuff. And then like anything American, modern American country. So any Keith Urban stuff, any Hunter Hayes stuff, any Brad Paisley, any of that stuff.
Laura,
This-
if you're listening into this, we was doing it earlier. And oh, Sinead said so good. Really enjoyed that. Thanks for being brave enough to talk about the mental health stuff. So important for artists to acknowledge the darker side of creativity and share and support each other.
Oh, sure. Oh, that's great. I'm glad it's, helping or informative or whatever. It's a really, I'm very passionate about that stuff, because it sucks and it's nice when people talk about it.
Yeah, big time. Really important stuff.
Mm.
So just again, put Kevin's details in their phone number and email for PayPal, sending Kevin money or contacting him for a lesson. All the questions are answered. So just take us out with one more little improvise of something else. If you sit back a bit so we can see your guitar.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll try and
Just a
get
short,
the angle in.
just a minute or two.
Just a minute or two. Okay, we'll see what we come out with. Don't know what that was. Something happened. Something happened. Very good.
That was great.
Imagine.
Listen to that
Cheers.
for ages.
Nice indeed. Thanks, man.
Fantastic stuff. So that's it now. We'll Jimmy says thanks. Sinead says woohoo. People are
Nice one, guys. Nice one.
Well, I'll stop the recording here. So that's another